All right, long awaited. Welcome to the Bucky Beeman podcast. And who am I joined with today?
Jason Siano from Sabre Real Estate. I guess that's my cue.
That's your cue, man. You've been growing an influence in the commercial real estate industry for some time, and I've been watching from afar. And we've chatted back and forth on Instagram. We've never really done the podcast, so I'm excited to be here with you today and learn more about what you got going on social, what you got going in CRE, and how everything is going.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thank you very much for the invite. I appreciate it. I'm watching you as well, and you're inspiring me to do more and do better. So thank you.
So give us the very beginning stories. Where did the love start for commercial real estate? Because I imagine that came before content creation.
Yes, long before content creation. I don't know if there was a such thing as content creation when I started in commercial real estate at the end of 2000. So yeah, I'll kind of give you the quick and dirty. I graduated college from the University of Arizona, and it was always assumed that I was going into the family business, which was the automobile business. And unfortunately, my mom passed away from cancer shortly after graduating from college. And it forced the family into some quick decisions. And my dad decided that he wanted to sell his business and, didn't have the mind for it anymore and retire young. So he did. And I encouraged him to do so because I did not want to rush into something prematurely, so to speak. So it was a little bit of it was kind of I guess the first time that I really felt like I was able to do anything. So I was on a soul searching mission, obviously at a tough time also based on, just dealing with the loss of my mother. But it created an amazing opportunity for me to decide what I wanted to do when I grow up. Ultimately I looked at a lot of different industries, and real estate was always something very interesting to me. In the sale of the family's business, I learned a lot about the real estate business as well, because my family owned the real estate that the automobile business was in. And, the value of the real estate was equal to the value of the business. So that was the inspiration for it. I ended up, learning as much as I could in a short amount of time about commercial real estate. I knew I didn't want to go into residential. Just wasn't something that really was of interest to me. So I decided that, I had previous experience at the time. I was working as a DJ. So I had a lot of experience in the nightclub world, restaurant hospitality world. So that started to connect the dots for me that eventually I would focus on commercial real estate, but more specifically in the retail arena.
And I didn't realize that part of your journey was the DJ and the promotion, but it all makes sense now as far as you were having to promote and bring people to the club or wherever they were at. And I'm sure that was a learning experience in itself of how to get people out.
Yeah, and that carries over into everything that I do, so I'm very much a marketing person. I'm also a salesperson, which I think is unique, and why I excel in this business and in business in general, because I'm very good at both marketing and sales. And I think, that's kind of a unicorn. I think a lot of people either focus and are good at one or the other.
And early on in the real estate business, was it you and a firm? Was it a team? What did you start it off with?
Yeah, so I started off with a desk, a phone, yellow pages, and a bunch of maps. So yeah, it wasn't quite a team. It was I had an opportunity through a friend's older brother to work at a local firm in the area that I was from, a firm that dominated, both on the development side and the brokerage side of the business. But hyper local, really focused specifically on Long Island, New York, which is, again, where I was born and raised. So I'm not kidding. I was given a desk, a phone, a computer, and told, hey, if there's any business that basically has a sign on the storefront, that's kind of the audience that we're going after. Best of luck to you.
And in that process, when did Sabre, did I pronounce that right? When did that?
Sabre. Yeah, Sabre, like the sword. Yeah.
There you go. When did
yeah,
that
so,
come to
I'll
be?
give you, I'll give you the last 18 years of my life in the commercial real estate business, because I think it's really important to understand kind of, the evolution of myself and now the evolution of Sabre. So again, started with the tools and, mentors and great people around me, but not people that were, handing me business and opportunities. I had to go out and figure that out for myself, which I actually really enjoy. And that's also made me who I am today. If people were responsible for the business development and handing me accounts, I'd only be able to service accounts, not to own a commercial real estate brokerage advisory company the way that I do now and be responsible for the majority of the business development that we do. So I was forced to do that at a young age, excelled at it, and that ultimately has led to the success of Sabre. But in the first 2 years of the business, first 6 months, my boss at the time told me that I should visit all of the shopping centers on Long Island, catalog those shopping centers with index cards, which I did. He still to this day, says that I'm the only person that actually finished the entire assignment. So I think that tells you a little about myself. When I set out to do something, I want to be really good at it, right? I don't half-ass things. I'm not interested in just being okay. I need to be great. So I did that. I would perch myself up at the in the distance of a parking lot and look at the shopping center. I would draw the shopping center on the back of an index card, and I would write down all the tenants that were in it. And then on the front of the index card, I would write down the real estate location in the top left. I would write a number or something on the top right of the index card, and then it would all correlate to a map that I kept that was specific to each county of Long Island. And just by doing that process for the first 6 months, I actually started to learn everything about these properties. You have to remember, I grew up in a car dealership where all I had to do was learn about each vehicle and why it would be useful for a certain individual. In the real estate business, the first thing I did was question what my inventory was, right? So that assignment, that little project taught me everything I needed to know to go out and basically connect the dots and put tenants into space. From there, did a few local deals in shopping centers as a result of that, and had the opportunity to pitch the Starbucks account about 2 years into the business, and as a junior person on the account. And that pitch was a very interesting, pivotal moment in my career. Long story short, the more seasoned person that invited me along did a really poor job in the pitch, and I was forced to kind of get a lot more involved than I anticipated, which was a gift and a curse at the time. But ultimately, it led to me landing the Starbucks account, and still have that account today, 15 years later. So that's extremely exciting. Shortly after getting up and running on the Starbucks account, I was out in LA visiting friends from the University of Arizona, and I stumbled upon a concept called Chipotle while out there. And I realized how unique it was at the time. And I, called them and did everything in my power to get them to be a client. And ultimately I did. And that was, I was instrumental in bringing Chipotle to New York. So that's another one of my claims to fame on the tenant rep side of the business.
And at what point in that journey did you take the picture that I recently saw of a bunch of your team members in black suits looking looking like a bunch of gangsters?
That's interesting. So yeah, I guess I'll pick up from where I just left off. So I was 6 years at the company that I started in the business with. and had the Starbucks, Chipotle account, several other accounts. All of the big companies started to notice. I was definitely making my mark on the business again locally, and Cushman, Newmark, CB, all the big guys were taking notice, and they were pursuing me to come join their retail services group. I ended up going to CBRE to do just that, and that was January of 2007. At the same time, I decided that I wanted to start a nonprofit retail real estate networking group called the Retail Network. I started that with Josh Weinkrantz, who's a president at Kimco now, Stu Fagan, who works at Sabre now, and Joe Deal, who's the managing principal of Bowler Engineering in New York as well. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time, and I thought that if I could do that, I could bring together a lot of influential people in the industry, and actually give myself, the opportunity to establish better relationships with these people. And we ended up having tremendous success with the retail network out of the gate. Our average guest count would be anywhere from like 350 to 500 people at our events. And the events were very specific and niche to the retail real estate world. So we'd have landlords, developers, brokers, attorneys, construction people, anybody, allied trades. And that was a really interesting point for me, because it grew my network extensively in a short amount of time. That photo you're referring to is the cover.
I loved it, by the way.
Yeah. It's the cover of a local publication that did a little piece on us, and the I guess gangster kind of I don't know.
That was what everybody had to wear back then. That was like the attire if you were in the industry, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it was also like the inspiration behind the style of the photo shoot for the cover, which was not our idea. But anyway, it'll always be an interesting photo to look at.
That's great. My first photo in real estate, my suit was too big, and a couple of my friends still have my original business card with that suit looking way too big, and I do not. I look a lot younger than I even look today.
Yeah, which is saying a lot, because you definitely look young.
All right, so we're going down that journey. You're starting to kind of curate your own events, curate your own groups, create your own company. Did you find that early on in your own company, one of your competitive advantages was probably the ability to do things without the restrictions of maybe, let's say, larger companies overseeing what you might do as an individual agent, allowing your creative ability to shine?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I just got off the phone with Chelsea Pites. Do you know Chelsea?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
She's awesome. So yeah, her and I were talking about a few different things, and it's funny because based on the conversation I was having with her, I said, it's funny because I do remember working for a very large company, and I just hate the word no. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the inspiration for me. I knew that I needed to go work at a large company to understand. I always use the term, a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I had a background in a very strong boutique family office, and then went on to CBRE to learn what they did really well, and work for one of the biggest commercial real estate firms in the country, in the world, I should say, right? I was able to kind of take the best practices from both, marry them, and create Sabre, which is a unique advantage also, right? If I didn't work in those two environments for a prolonged period of time, I would not know exactly what I think works best for people in my position that are looking to go out and represent tenants, represent developers, property owners, and I've been able to create a platform and an infrastructure that enables people to be very successful very quickly. And I also, as you know, I'm very creative, and I add my own twist on things, because the non-innovative aspect of the commercial real estate world really frustrates me, which is what inspires me to be a thought leader and kind of help the direction of where the industry is going, and not necessarily focus solely on where it was and where it is today, which I think the majority of the people in our industry do. So, I stick my neck out frequently and do things that I want to do, regardless of what other people may think about that. And again, that's the marketing side of me, because I'll be honest with you, I don't care what people are saying. I just hope they're talking about me and talking about Sabre. So anytime that somebody walks up to me and says, I love your content, what's the ROI of it? I just laugh.
Right.
The ROI of it is the fact that you, a complete stranger, walked up to me in a room full of people. You beeline to me to talk to me for a reason. The reason is the fact that I put out content. And there you go, buddy. That's why I do it.
I love that. Yeah, I was at ICSC 2 or 3 years ago in Vegas, and some guy in the hallway goes, "You're that guy from Instagram." I was like, I've really only been on Instagram for like 6 months, but I have been posting a lot related to ICSC. So you're absolutely right. That's the ROI, because that is the next door that could be open, that could lead to, and maybe it leads to nowhere, but there's plenty of doors that lead to somewhere. And that's, you're right at the door, and they're either opening it for you or you're knocking and they're going to let you in.
Yeah, Bucky, you're doing a great job. There's very few people in our industry. We can count them probably on one hand, maybe two if we're being generous. And I happen to know and love all of those people. And that's why this is long overdue for us to do this podcast. But, it's crazy to me how few people in our industry get it. And it's crazy and it's exciting at the same time, right? Because, it's almost like we have an unfair advantage, which is like, it's funny because we're all about preaching, because we want other people to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. And the fact that we live in this time where, attention is so underpriced. And you and I are creating as much attention for ourselves and our companies and our businesses. And as a result, our families are going to benefit from everything that we're doing. And yet people think it's egotistical and narcissistic.
The opportunity's there, man. I hear you. And that's where it's at. I want to get into, and if you want to kind of share about the story of, where you are today with your company, and I think there's a lot there, but one thing I really want to get into is how are you doing the amount of content creation and distribution that you are? Because out of anybody in the industry, you are doing the most, and you are doing it on the most platforms, and you are doing it in ways that no one else is doing it. And getting into that nitty gritty of how, for my own selfish interest, but also for those on the internet that, are looking at doing it. My story is I'm doing it mainly myself with help from one videographer. I'm an individual agent creating as much as I can with my mind. And so I look at you, and you have a team behind what you're doing, and it's impressive. So that's one area I definitely want to go if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, appreciate the kind words. You understand what it takes to actually do what we do. So, I appreciate that. So, it started out over 2 years ago now on a whim, when I'm always looking for creative ways to, again, generate awareness, right? I play a very high stakes game because, I started a real estate brokerage and advisory firm at the end of 2010, walking away from a very nice, cushy job at CBRE. And most people in my position would never have done that, right? So I'm unique to begin with. I'm also willing to sacrifice and not be that fancy. And also, I kind of wake up every day in fear that, everything can always be taken away from me, right? So the inspiration was really wanting to continue to create awareness as much as possible in the industry and beyond. Okay, which would, I feel responsible for the success of all of the people that are at my company. And the more that I learned about the use of social media and digital media, the more I was drawn to it, because I knew it was a tool that I could take advantage of and it would help everybody. And people at my company or clients or anybody that's in my network could be as involved or not involved as they want to be. I would stick my neck out. I would be the individual that was putting myself in front of the camera and in some ways in harm's way. Again, especially in New York commercial real estate, everybody's really, really cool, right? So everybody in their own mind, right?
Yep.
Everybody super, super cool, and too cool for Instagram, too cool for video, too cool for all this other stuff. And I figured, hey, listen, man, I'm definitely not too cool for it. So I want to be exactly who I am to my, with my friends and my colleagues when the cameras are off. That's the only person I know how to be. So for me, it's really easy because I'm not, I also was approaching like 40 and already had established myself as somebody in the industry who's had some level of success. So I think it put me in a unique opportunity to be able to do these things. And even if important, influential people in the industry were haters or didn't get it, they couldn't take away my credibility, right? So that, I thought of myself as like the perfect person to kind of, to go out there and start creating a vlog, right? Start using, social media in a different capacity. And then I started to also evolve Sabre into, a little bit of a media company inside of our brokerage business. And, the minute that I started I subscribed to the Gary V concept of document, don't create, right? And then I also subscribed to just starting, right? Like just start, okay? Like it doesn't need to be perfect. Even though, people in the industry will argue that my video content is, head and shoulders above what most people create. And yeah, because we have professionals that work at the company that are solely focusing on videoing and editing and creating content for social media. So yeah, I mean, of course we're investing in it, but it's and it's not easy, as you mentioned. It's all about consistency and spending the time that it takes to be doing it on a certain level and scaling it. So it's not easy, but nothing I've ever done in life is easy. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Was the first video person on your team an intern, or were they a hired individual that you found?
Great question. Yeah, no, it was our receptionist.
And and what was the setup like? What was the camera like? You just went and bought one, or what?
Yeah, man, it was right around the holidays in 2016. It was, it was after Thanksgiving, and I was starting to kick around the idea of creating the vlog. So I went to Best Buy, bought a ridiculous camcorder, and came back to the office with it and like took it out of the box and was like, now what? And actually a friend of mine who's in television, I happened to see over the holidays, and I told him that I was going to get started on this, asked him about equipment. He's like, no, you need a DSLR, man. Like your camcorders are like 1992. Like, what are you doing? Like, okay, great. Went back to Best Buy, swapped it out, and literally handed it to our receptionist and said, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to follow me with the camera, and we're going to give this video to somebody to edit, and we're going to call it Real Sabre. And that's what we did.
And who did you then find to give it to? Was it somebody that had an editing company, or was it, where did that come from?
Yeah, it was somebody that I knew that had a company that does all things creative, not necessarily an editing, not like a professional, it was just somebody that I knew that I asked if they'd help, and they said yes. And listen, if I was trying to create the best content back then, I never would have put anything out, and it's funny because, I look at if I go back and look at episode 1 right now, like I can measure the growth, not only in the company, but in myself. Like just,
yeah,
it's so crazy, man. Like I never anticipated that it would be as, as man, as impactful on my entire life. Because you know what? It's almost like you're no longer hiding, and you're accountable to everybody, I mean, I can't be hungover anymore. It's like if I can go to a cocktail party, like I'm at a point where I can't even drink because I know what my day's like in the morning, that it's just not worth it. It's crazy. It's just, and as a result, my fitness has improved substantially. My I don't have downtime. I don't need it. I'm performing at a much higher level in all areas of my life. And I credit, honestly, starting the vlog to that, because when you're on camera and you got to be sharp, you got to look sharp, you got to be sharp, you got to show up. And granted, I was doing that beforehand, obviously, but not at the same level. It's really crazy, man.
You're making your life a lot more transparent than it's ever been, right? And so can you remember, as far as the first kind of client interaction? I feel like you're either going to a client that's like already comfortable with you no matter what you're doing, and they're going to be fine with the camera, or they maybe have a camera somehow involved in their business, or you're going to a client that's just like, do you mind if I show up with a camera? Do you remember any of those early interactions with clients?
So awkward, just I mean, because, the nice part is that I personally spend a lot of my time with entrepreneurs and founders and, the owners and the people behind the concept, right? So I am very similar to those people because I'm also the founder behind Sabre, right? I'm also a lot more creative than most commercial real estate people. And, these people are also, high performing individuals that are creative and inspiring and inspired to make their own mark on the world by starting their own concept, right? So we're really like-minded. So those earlier interactions were with people like that who were like, yeah, Jay, whatever you want to do. Like, but it's funny because I remember them like, vlog, like, did you come up with that term, Jay? Like, what does that even mean? I'm like, video blog. What do you mean? Like, Gary Vee is?
All right. And then right in the beginning, Instagram wasn't to the level that it is now. It probably wasn't, it might have been a platform, but it wasn't one that was really used in business, especially. When did that catch on? Was the vlog mature, or was the vlog still in the very beginning stages and you started figuring out Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's a blur a little bit at this point because they go hand in hand. You have to remember, I'm not solely interested in creating awareness in our, commercial real estate brokerage community, right?
Yep. You got clients.
Exactly. Right. And my inspiration today as a business person is being able to help people with their pain points, right? Business owners. So, back when I started in the business and I was a tenant rep broker in Long Island, New York, right? Long before I created this national advisory platform that is Sabre today, I had to think about, how to call as many companies as possible to figure out the timing of when they were going to come to my market. Okay. Over the last 18 years, I've traveled the country. I know every market, every major market, and I have contacts and close friends in every market, So, that kind of network and that education over the last 18 years has created a very unique experience for me to actually, be able to help people that are anywhere accomplish what they're looking to accomplish in real estate and beyond, right? So, we do a lot of things that are not just necessarily designing and executing a strategy, an expansion, a rollout strategy, a penetration strategy for a new market for a tenant. We're involved in helping them in any way possible, right? Like, what do tenants need in order to scale. They need money, they need staff, they need research, they need bandwidth, technology, right? So, we're kind of a one-stop shop for all of those things. And like I said, we're able to help people anywhere across the country and outside of the country. And it's exciting to me. That's when I feel proud. The fact that, we have this amazing New York Metro traditional commercial real estate brokerage business, but we also have this amazing national advisory business that services all different types of companies across the U.S.
With your vlog, did it ever change from the receptionist, or is she still following you around doing the vlog?
Yeah, no, she's still following me, and no. Yeah, that's funny. It changed, and by the way, like, she would travel with me. It ended up she was my D-Rock, right? She was my first D-Rock. What happened was, as a result of doing it and just putting it out in the universe, a lot of very talented people would reach out to me.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and just say, hey, listen, Jay, love what you're doing. Saw Real Sabre. I could really take it up several notches. And, listen, I'm in the people business, right? I love meeting interesting people that and helping people, right? It's a give and a take. And, again, just the social media stuff that we're doing in the vlog and, the digital media stuff has enabled me to, meet so many interesting, talented people. And, fortunately, some of those people now work for Sabre.
And they are also then helping you personally with your content creation when it comes to Instagram. We'll go to that platform. And I imagine I see a lot of your quote cards. You do a very good job of putting out a lot of consistent content on your story. And so they're doing kind of all in-house graphic design creation. Are they doing your distribution as well, or are you having to do a lot of your own distribution?
Yeah, no, they don't touch my personal Instagram. My personal Instagram's all me. I will give them quotes to create, obviously to create the actual creative for me to post.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have very little to do with the Sabre Instagram page, but I have everything to do with my personal page. And, I posted 2 days ago something to the effect that, for me, the key to my social media is consistency. So I wake up in the morning, I have a quote card ready to go out, but I literally type it in the parking lot of my gym or, whatever workout I'm doing that morning. And I sit there and I look at the quote that I've decided is going to get posted today. And I write something from my heart about that quote and what it means to me. And I put it out in the universe. And then that quote becomes the beginning of my day in my Insta story. So I look at my Insta story very much as like a daily vlog. Some days I'm really good at following along. Other days I'm in meetings back to back and, barely posting anything because I'm actually a business person and running a pretty substantial business. So, but that's what works for me. And then at night, at any point in the evening, I scramble for a photo because I'm really not good enough at making sure we have a lot of photos that we take of me. Like just, I'm literally out and I need to spend some time with Brittany to get a bunch of new photos. But what's crazy, like I don't have time to do a photo shoot and like change outfits, right? So like she'll follow me for a day and we'll have a whole bunch of photos of me in the same outfit. And you'll see on my Instagram, like I'll end up posting a bunch of stuff from the same day. Like I'm not doing it to the extent that a lot of other people would do it, but there's a such thing as GE, I always say. Like it's good enough for me, which is light years beyond what a lot of other people in our arena are doing. But, I need to focus on what I do for a living too.
And one thing that really caught me in that conversation that you're mentioning is the Instagram story is your vlog. And that is so true for all these real estate agents that maybe have an interest or see the opportunity. Is like, it can become your vlog without having to ask somebody to follow you around with the camera. And that can lead to, you took it a different way. You started with the vlog, which is amazing, but man, that Instagram story is empowering if you start posting on there religiously, if you will.
It's huge. And, so my vlog and my new podcast is future proof, right? So for me, I truly believe that the only way to future proof yourself is to create a personal brand and use it in your business, right? And they're one and the same, right? So Jason Siano, the commercial real estate professional, is also Jason Siano, the dad, the husband, the person who's interested in fitness and living a healthy lifestyle. That's just me, right? So personal brand equals reputation, right? Personal brand is an extension of yourself. So a lot of people think about like developing, and I just said creating a personal brand. You are a personal brand. You have a personal brand, whether you like it or not. Anybody who knows you or doesn't know you is going to have a perception of you based on what they see or hear about you, right? Which is your reputation. If you develop your personal brand, you actually now have control over what people think and believe about you, and are able to kind of story tell and tell them about yourself in a very real way, right? So I think that, people who don't realize that and don't develop their personal brand are leaving it up to other people to develop for them, so to speak, right? Which I think is dangerous and stupid. And I think that, it's really, especially in today's world, real estate professionals, especially brokers, agents, salespeople, advisors, whatever you want to call yourself and whatever stage you're at in your career, that's how you differentiate yourself, right? Like there are a lot of people who do something similar to what I do, all right? There aren't a lot of people that do exactly what I do because I have the best interest of my client. So the minute that you say that in our world, it's like that weeds you out from, the majority of the people who do what we do. Because at the end of the day, unlike myself, they're so focused on what's in it for them, and they don't really understand the lifetime value of somebody. I am so aggressively patient that nobody can beat me at that, because it took me 18 years to get to where I am. And thank God I'm at a place that whether that deal happens or doesn't happen, it does not affect my life. I don't care how big the deal is, right? And that's because I've built this the slow and steady way. This is not a house of cards, right? But I think that it's a very interesting time for our industry. I think that it's a very interesting time for the world, a very interesting time for the world. And I think the only thing that will set people apart like ourselves is our service, right? The level of service that we're able to provide for our clients is what makes the absolute difference in a really, really good real estate person and an okay real estate person. And if you're not differentiating yourself today and using these different tools that you and I understand, you're basically invisible and in the very near future, potentially completely irrelevant, right? And that's what people watching this need to figure out and understand. I couldn't care less, because ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me the same way that it's going to affect everybody else. I'm doing this to try to help other people understand how important it is for them. But if they can't figure that out on their own and take it to the next step of actually applying it to what they do, that's on them. All I can promise you, Bucky, is unfortunately, when the economy turns, and it will turn because it's inevitable, there's going to be a bloodbath in our industry. And that's going to set people like you and I apart even more, which is great, but I'm not rooting for anybody's demise. I just wish everybody would start to figure out what we're doing so they're future-proof.
All right. And I got two more questions for you. One is, if you're talking to somebody that's been in the industry for a long time and you just went through, hey, the recession's going to happen, and maybe that's the point where they decide to retire, but let's say they're not going to retire. Let's say they're going to fight it off. What do they need to start doing now that's obtainable and easy, relatively speaking, to get ready for being future-proof?
Yeah, I mean, you need to embrace social media, right? You need to have a voice. You need to be visible. And if you're still relying on the amount of phone calls that you can make in a day and the amount of hands you could shake in a day, you are moving at a snail's pace, and retirement will find you sooner than later.
And if people want to find out more about your company, because I know I've recently seen you're looking to franchise, is that right?
Where did you see that?
I saw that somewhere, man. Did I see that?
I don't know if you saw it, but that's very interesting.
I feel like I saw that. Maybe I'm wrong, but you're looking to grow nonetheless. So if
Yeah, well, by the way, I wouldn't say you're wrong, but I would say you're, yeah, I don't know where you saw that, but I'm definitely expanding, and we'll put that out in the universe. We'll put the franchising concept out in the universe.
So if people are looking to kind of join a team or just learn from somebody like yourself, where's a good place to start where they can start accessing your content and what you're doing and what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I make myself available to absolutely anybody who's serious about learning about what we do. You can find us on any social platform, obviously, at Sabre Real Estate. It's SABRE Real Estate. Our website is sabre.life. You can find myself as well, obviously, on the website, all my contact information on social media. Jason Siano, Jason with a Y, Jayson, Siano, Siano. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm super active, obviously. LinkedIn is a funny thing, right? A lot of people in our industry love LinkedIn. I do too, but I get so many people reaching out to me on LinkedIn that it's very spammy to me. So I do not even read through all of the people that reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I would say, do not reach out to me on LinkedIn because I will not respond. Like I said, shoot me an email. My last name, Siano, Siano, at sabre.life. And if you can't, by the way, after everything I just listed, and if you can't just Google me and figure out how to get to Sabre and myself, I don't want to talk to you.
Jason, what you're up to, what your team is up to is inspiring. Thank you for being a mover and a shaker in our industry, because it is teaching others, whether they're letting you know or not, it is teaching others and inspiring them to be better at what they're doing in social media and in the business. So thank you.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, and I thank you because you inspire me so much, and you and I have never connected like the way we just did. So I look forward to doing a lot more of that. And you'll be at Recon, I'm assuming, in Vegas?
I will not. I
Okay.
will not. Yeah, offline I'll tell you more, but it's just we're in a market that just doesn't. We're not doing that type of business.
I hear it completely, and I have my own thoughts on these conferences, and I could talk to you at length about the ROI of that.
Right.
So yeah, all right. Well, we'll have to connect in person in the near future here. I'm traveling a ton, so I'm sure it's not too difficult to figure out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Bucky. Really appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
You too.